Kia ora tātou, thanks for having me here. E mihi ana hau kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koe Albert, ka hari ahau te kite I tō kanohi. O tira e mihi ana hau ki ngā iwi no rātou te mana I te whenua, no te aupauri ahau, kau te hea mana o te runanga nui o te aupauri. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Kia ora mai anō tātou. Thanks for having me. I'm one of the ring-ins. I'm also involved in AI from a regional point of view, but making international impact. And so Te Hiku Media are one of 4 domestic data science projects here in New Zealand. And we've prioritised making tools that can enhance the productivity and enhance the way that people use their time. We're focused on making an impactful contribution to small to medium-sized businesses and selling our tools, showing how this sort of technology can wipe its own face, which is extremely important in the current political environment, which I'm sure we're all aware of. So I'm going to tell you a story about Airwaves to algorithms, and it's the story of an iwi radio station with 30 years of trusted relationships, not just with communities, but with the individuals that make up those communities. Te Hiku Media is one of 21 iwi radio stations in New Zealand, and iwi radio is very much the last bastion of community broadcasting in this country. So when we think about what that represents in terms of natural language processing, it represents a data pipeline. And there ain't much data science happening without a data pipeline. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our contribution to the space and how our data pipeline is so important in terms of creating natural language processing tools for Te Reo Māori. We've prioritised development over research and creating tools that we can put in the hands of people. We demonstrate our tools locally and internationally, and through that work I was honoured to be named one of the 100 most influential people in AI in 2024 by the Time magazine in New York, which was a little bit of a story because I got a phone call and they were like, oh, did you check your emails? I was like, don't send me an email, send me a DM me. I'm not going to answer an email. And they were like, do you want to come to dinner? I was like, where? They were like, in San Francisco and then New York. I was like, is this a scam? Cut a long story short, I think international relationships are so important when we think about how we harness and take on board the opportunity to receive and give advice, to address real-world problems and making a difference in the lives of people, and not just creating more words on paper, for example, articles in journals, which of course are so important when we reflect on how we are contributing to the body of knowledge that is artificial intelligence. But more importantly, I think with a big application that's due on the 20th, we've got to show, we've got to be able to show how we can work together and how we can contribute something meaningful. And that's the story I'm going to tell today. Kia ora. So what we've achieved to date is a model that operates at an 8% error rate. That's unheard of for an Indigenous language. And when we think about what that means in terms of community-led problem solving, it means we did something that hadn't been done before. We did something that was an opportunity that we didn't imagine having in 2014 when we started this journey of digitising Te Reo Māori. But what we knew was so important was accuracy and precision. And when we think about what is regarded as good enough to go to market at the moment, people are accessing language tools through a number of platforms and a number of options out there that don't represent the level of accuracy and precision required to make meaningful decisions. And I have a couple of examples later on in my presentation. We were accepted by NVIDIA as part of the Inception program, and that gave us the opportunity to purchase GPUs at half price. And we all know that a big part of this story is compute, data, and access to algorithms. Our ability to own and operate our own trustworthy AI infrastructure in Kaitaia gave us an opportunity to do more with less. So we amassed 310 hours of speech and text pairs from over 200 recordings from roughly 2,500 people in less than 10 days. In less than 10 days. We now have thousands, like tens of thousands of hours. Not just Te Reo Māori, but also New Zealand English. And I'm going to show you that and demonstrate it shortly. Because here in New Zealand, we speak English with a unique accent as well. And there are examples of quite a few regional variations of the English accent too, here in New Zealand. And so we took that on board when we started to reach out to our sister languages in the Pacific Rim. Te Reo Māori is a member of the Polynesian language group. One of our sister languages, Olelo Hawaii, shares a lot in common with Te Reo Māori. So earlier this year, we worked alongside our strategic partners, one of which is Kamehameha. Kamehameha, of course, is the second largest trust, second to Harvard University, when we're talking about the United States of America. So it was important for us to seek out partners that had a shared vision, but also brought their own experience to what was a consortium of effort to get to a preferred destination for Indigenous language ASR. We got 400 hours of tagged and labelled speech and text pairs from close to 1,300 people in February, and that was the Lau Leo campaign. And we have now developed an initial Olelo Hawaii model, and that's been fine-tuned on the very high-quality model that is the only one of its kind for Te Reo Māori, or any Indigenous language for that matter. Who are our strategic partners? At the moment, our strategic partners include Radio New Zealand, Ngā Taonga Sound and Vision, the Abundance Intelligence Project out of Montreal, Te Whakaruru Hau o Ngā Reo Irirangi Māori, FLAIR, which is led by Caroline and Michael Runningwolf, amongst other leaders in that space, Avaya Ulu, and then of course Kamehameha, Kanaio Kana, and those groups that are associated with the University of Hawaii at Hilo. And what do? Te Hiku Media, we build tech for Indigenous languages. We've created pronunciation models, automatic pronunciation models. And you might ask why? The reality is that with language, mispronunciation can obscure the meaning that a speaker is trying to convey. Our broadcasting background brings that front and center for each of us who are presenters, and how important it is to connect with your audience, but also to be able to convey with some meaning what it is that we're hoping to communicate to our audience. And so in terms of mispronunciation of Te Reo Māori, I'm talking about the journey from the maunga to the maunga, the journey of our whānau to our whānau. And these, of course, are diphthongs, phonetical features that we need to get better with pronouncing. Our application, it provides a journey for people to experience improvement and learn without feeling less off for the experience, but better off. We won't tell people that they got it wrong. Instead, we follow the old wānanga philosophy. And so you won't see any writing, but instead you have to mimic what you hear. So that's our pronunciation model. We developed the whare kōrero. The whare kōrero, you can download Rongo now, download it. It's all about trees and birds and things like that. But it connects us with our environment, because language is, of course, the key to our culture, but it's also the vehicle that we transmit our knowledge to the next generation, and it is the vehicle of our culture. So when we think about what it represents, it emerges from the landscape and, of course, the environment that the speakers are born from. The whare kōrero provides real-time access to the 21 iwi radio stations. And when we think about natural language processing data pipelines, that for our own station, we're doing 5 to 7 radio interviews every morning. We're doing news bulletins. Those are bilingual. So when we tag and label those speech and text pairs, that helps us to improve the accuracy and the precision of the tools that we're creating. Those APIs, of course, are now being used by people in the health sector. Universities are using them. So we're not a university. We're, in fact, people that do stuff. And it's been an absolute, and I'm not saying that universities don't do stuff, but what I mean is we're working outside of that. And our reporting structure is actually to the public. So we're having to do demonstrations every day because people are like, what did you do with the money? What did you do with the money? And so we prioritize telling that story every day, because we were the only group that wasn't a university to be awarded a domestic data science project. And you might think, what does that actually mean? It means that we kind of broke a glass ceiling. We were the first to do that from our community, but we certainly don't want to be the last. Kaituhi is our bilingual transcription platform. We have thousands of users or customers that use that at the moment, and most of them are small to medium-sized businesses that create content. Others are researchers that are transcribing interviews. Some of them are researchers for university projects, iwi projects, hapu projects. Climate change platforms are now accessing our API so that they can create their own use out of it. And then we do synthetic voices. There's a whole community out there, as we know, that accessibility is an issue for. So we've created voices that are now being tested and trialled. Aroha mai. By the non-speaking community who want to have access to voices that allow them to communicate by device. So that's part of our story, and so too is our screen readers that are prototypes for access for the blind or those that are vision impaired. But I think on an everyday level, there's probably lots of people here that have lots of meetings that you attend. And when you're in the regions, you think, gosh, I just need someone to read my papers to me while I have to drive for 2 hours to get somewhere. So we had surveyed people around what were their real life problems and how could we provide or contribute something that would go some way towards a solution for them. So we are now looking at how you can just plug in your phone into your car and have someone read your bilingual content to you. And I know it's not the perfect podcast, but at least it's helpful for those people that need to buy back some time. And it all started with the journey of our station 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago now. In 1991, we were established. We're one of the 21 iwi radio stations that are born out of the claim against the government for the atrocities committed against Te Reo Māori, Y11, the Māori language claim, and of course the struggle for recognition of frequencies, which continues today in so much as 5G negotiations are concerned. But we had gathered so much content, and we were mindful that most of our people don't live at home. This is where our idea started. How do we provide content to people that are on a language journey but do not live in the traditional territories that the language is spoken or communicated in more domains? 86% of our people of Te Aupōuri, Ngāi Tapoto, Te Raroa, and Ngāti Kahu, including Ngāti Kuri, do not live in our traditional territories. People are throughout the world working and learning and contributing in different ways. However, the first thing they do is they pick up a device in the morning, whether that is a mokopuna or an adult. And so this is where our journey just started. And we developed our philosophy of the big marae in the sky. And that idea was what sat behind our achievements. The whole idea of a meeting place. Not getting people to come to us, but taking what we had to them. And I think that was an important step for us. And nothing competes with kapahaka. We live video stream with our young people, kapahaka speech competitions. We are live video streaming kapahaka this Friday. We will be live video streaming Maria Mino Kapakingi's meeting at Kohe Whata Marae about why the Māori Party leaders fired her. We have already 300 people registered to attend that meeting in person. So I think this type of community service has supported us in the work that we do. We made sure that people were aware of what it was we were hoping to achieve and our aspirations for foundational models, but built on community trust that's intergenerational. When we started to digitize our content, the first thing we realized was we were unable to transcribe everything manually as much as we wanted to. There just wasn't enough people to work through 30 years of native speaker content. Whilst it is a rich repository and is one of the largest native speaker repositories amongst the 21 iwi radio stations, profound native and traditional knowledge contained within our archives. It was something that represented a lot of work. And you needed accuracy and precision from those that were transcribing it. And I'm going to get to an example about that because cultural context is everything. And so too is understanding that there are passive and active skills with language. Listening, reading, speaking, writing. Not everybody has those skills in a highly developed way. Aroha mai. And then, of course, providing explanations in Māori about unique words, idiomatic expressions, colloquialisms, so that we were creating not only a data set for speech to text, but we were curating a data set that could be used for a number of things into the future-proofing the options and opportunities that data set represented. And that's why we started to teach computers how to speak Māori. There were a few other people that were supposed to be doing it. We don't know what ended up there, but we are hoping that our offering with speech-to-text and text-to-speech for Te Reo Māori can represent something to a consortium. And when we think about what a consortium needs to look like, it needs to look like people participating and bringing something to the party. And what we bring is engagement. We engage with people every day. Our Kōrero Māori platform was used by the people in Hawaii. It was modified, of course, and we created an app for that corpus gathering effort. And that corpus gathering effort had been talked about by us recently at Cambridge University and Oxford University, at Mila in Montreal, in Ottawa, in New York at the Doris Duke Foundation, last week at the Indigenous Business Forum in Melbourne, the week before we were at the Indigenous Language Conference in Australia. And what we've found is after having a tour of Google in New York and being there talking with people about their aspirations, is that we have to be open about who we will work with and why we will work with them. Because the regions that we come from, of course, need to advance economic development in their own ways. And so we've been keeping a really open mind about how we can contribute to people realizing their own economic aspirations while dreaming a dream of green AI. Because we live in the Sunbelt. In Kaitaia, we live in the Sunbelt. I mean, as the chairman of my own iwi, we are often being asked for land to lease for solar farms. But how do we have conversations that include a relationship that's not just about leasing land for $8,000 a hectare or whatever, but looking at how we can provide real-life opportunities to power a network of data centres, perhaps across Aotearoa. Many data centres that aren't having a huge environmental impact. So I'm going to give you some demos right now. We are trialling this out with, we had to just get this going because, for example, transcription is used in the courts. It's used for meeting minutes. It is used in the parliament. And it needs to be bilingual. O taihoa e hihi ana hau kia mahi tēnei mea. O e mahi ana tēnei mea. E whakātungi ana e a hau te pai o tēnei rorohiko ki te tuhi i aku kōrero. Tēnei te tahi āhua i hāpai ngia e mātou, i tō mātou rohe, i te aupauri, i tō mātou rohe i ngai takoto, i te rarawa, i Ngāti Kahu, i Ngāti Kuri hoki. And what I want to share is how important it is for these tools to be bilingual. So we've focused on ensuring that our Te Reo Māori speech to text is just as good as our English, but it needs to code switch pēnei i ahau. I nā hoki ahau ki Te Reo Māori, me mōhio hoki te rorohiko ki te whakawhiti. I taua kōrero, kia tuhi ngia hea rānei te mea e kōrero hia ana e ahau. And it doesn't matter where we are, we code switch all the time. And that's true bilingualism. So that is an example of what we have done. Those are live captions. It could be for broadcasting. It could be for anything. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I'm going to stop that. And now I will just quickly show you our, here we go. We had a prayer. I'm not going to try and type everything out. Here we go. Here's Huriana. Oh gosh. Taihua.
Kia koe, e mohi o tia ana ngā hiahia katoa, e kore hoki, e ngaro ia koe te mea huna. Whakahāngi ai ho tau wairua tapu, hei whakamā i ngā whakaro o mātou ngākau. Kia tino aroha ai mātou ki a koe, kia tika ai te whakanui.
You get it. And then of course, we have other voices.
E te atua kaharawa, e tuwhera ana ngā katoa ki a koe.
That's my one. But we also done a model in Hawaiian, working with our sister languages. So when you think about the sister languages and the phonetical and grammatical similarities, how you can work with your sister languages to develop an opportunity to extend on the AI, and of course understanding the body of knowledge that is Pacific knowledge, and how we can use our tools to better understand what that represents in terms of how we want to make regional and realm impact. The realm countries of New Zealand that include the Cook Islands, Tokelau, the list goes on and on. Okay, I'll just quickly show this to you guys.
E komako makua I loko kalani, e ho ano ia kou I noa e hiki mai kou a puni e maalama ia kou make makahonua nei.
So what I'm just showing to you guys really is how important authenticity is in this as well. Of course it's mimicking what native sound is, but when we think about what the archaeology of sound, native sound is, and how revitalization efforts for Indigenous language is really key to the work that we do. We bring that to the work that we do, whether it's pronunciation, whether it's summarization, whatever it is, we're bringing our worldview, which is important. And so that's really enabled us to do more for less. I think time's running out for me in terms of how long I've got to talk. How long do I have to talk for? Do I have any...
How much longer do you need?
How much more do I have?
Yeah, you can have like 5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes? Okay, cool. I'm just going to show you, so our screen readers that we are looking at. Okay, here's something. So this is an interview from the other day. Hami Piripi had something to say. And so...
I tēnei iwi kōrero tahi ai mātou kia hāmi piripi mō ngā take maha I roto I te hapori o te rarawa I ahi para. Kuta noa I te rohe whānui o te hiku, o te ika, anei āna kōrero.
And so an important thing for us was to ensure that we didn't have a penultimate vowel sound, which is a feature of many of our sister languages, but is not a feature of spoken Te Reo Māori. The emphasis, of course, is somewhere else. So in terms of authenticity and our efforts with fine-tuning, that's been something that we've focused on as well, to ensure that we take our experience into the products that we create. I'm just going to quickly finish up, so that is that. We've talked about our pronunciation app. I think I've covered off the Pacific language opportunity, but it really is something that provides us a way to unlock traditional knowledge, whether that's for health, whether that's for primary industries. I mean, those primary industries in Aotearoa, of course, are fishing, farming and forestry. But of course, those are strategies that we can enhance by taking on board the hundreds and sometimes thousands of years of resilience and adaptation strategies that communities in the Pacific have implemented, for example, for climate adaptation. That's our Low Leo campaign. I'm a great believer that we save the language and we save the planet. And 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity is actually on Indigenous territories or in Indigenous territories. So that's something that, you know, we bring, which is our very strong and comprehensive knowledge and our vocabulary for flora and fauna and our entire knowledge of the biodiversity that our languages emerge from. And when a language dies, it dies in silence. It dies in silence with the last speaker. And it represents sometimes a catastrophic event similar to a national museum. Remember what happened in Brazil? You know, the National Museum burnt down. Well, it's a body of knowledge that is disappearing. And so we think about ontologies. How do we categorize the world? And how can that, of course, provide new and meaningful insights to advancing new and emerging solutions to real-life problems? And we're all about empowering the communities that we come from to lead the change that they need, because that's all about accuracy and precision. This morning I went on one platform and wrote in E noho tamariki mā, and it told me that meant be a white child. E noho tamariki mā couldn't be so far away from the translation that it provided me with. It doesn't mean be a white child. And when we think about what that represents in perpetuating colonized, processes that have been part of language alienation from families, land alienation, those types of translations are not only inaccurate, but they perpetuate bias. Ma, of course, is a word that does mean white. But in this context, it means plural. Sit down, children. So language context is everything, and particularly with Pacific languages. We do have our data license, and you can learn more about it if you want to access our APIs. We don't allow it for the surveillance and tracking or discrimination of our people, particularly because when you look at what the incarceration rates are for New Zealand, 65% of the women in the female jail here in New Zealand are Māori women. 55% of the male jail population are Māori men. We don't allow our APIs to be used for that type of stuff. But if you want to collaborate with us, come and talk to me. We want to be and contribute towards a foundation for larger projects, and we bring with us our real-life experience with NLP fine-tuning, and we are a proven success story in terms of dealing with noisy and multilingual data. And this is the stuff that's going to be really important for us to advance different aspects of what consortiums or consortia are pulling together at the moment. So if you want to have a kōrero with me, you're most welcome to. That's where you can learn more about our stuff. And for us, data is the land. They've already taken our land and now they're back for our data. So let's not forget what's happened in the past. E te iwi, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai anō tātou. Thank you so much.